All right, welcome to the Clutch Talk channel. My name's Hot Take Jay, and today, well, first off, I hope you guys like my little intro. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is one of my favorites, and I was drawing some correlations to the Phoenix Suns, and yeah, that they're definitely the ugly in this scenario here. Today's topic is the second apron, and how is it applicable to the offseason that's about to begin with these specific teams. It's like all this jargon's tossed around, second apron. And it's just like the sequence of events I thought is very interesting on how these teams are going to be affected. So I handpicked the Suns as the ugly, the Boston Celtics are the bad, even though they're really good right now, like really good. And then the Thunder as the good. And really I'm speaking to their overall situation, resource allocation, and what's going to be going on in the future here. And so with some of the choices that are going to need to be made. So let's actually just recap real quick, super quick, the second apron and some of the jargon and the rules that are just about to be impacting these teams. Mid-level exception, every over-the-cap team, either taxpayer mid-level or non-taxpayer mid-level gets to spend anywhere between $6 and $7 million bucks, and next year it'll probably be around 13 million, give or take on the high end, to just go sign one free agent player to add to your team. Biannual exception is 3, 4, 5 million bucks every other year, and these teams are not going to be able to use that to sign players and add depth to their roster. So if you think about it, teams usually have 4 or 5 players that are eating up 90% of the active salary. And to get to a 15-man roster, it's going to be tricky. Another impediment, you cannot add 2 players to trade for 1. A lot of times you see 3 or 4 players adding up to a $20 million player that they can take back. Can't do that. No plus or minus 25%. In regards to taking back more than you're sending out. That extra 25% is not going to be available to teams sitting in that second apron. You guys can read the rest. I thought that those were the biggest ones. The other one, again, is the draft pick 7 years out. So Phoenix might have some action at their 2031 because the fiscal year doesn't turn over. But going forward, any team that's hung in that second apron is not going to be able to trade that new refreshed first round draft pick. And so again, let's just get into it. Let's just start with the ugly. All right, the Phoenix Suns, the ugly. I think the first thing that we need to do is start out with how is their season ends, and a lot of the attitude and the energy of the team going into the off season is expectations and how far they underachieved them. And so I don't think we can have an honest conversation and say that the Phoenix Suns can even compete with the Denver Nuggets. So we can't bank on a Jokic injury and assuming Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray don't get hurt, they're going to slap the hell out of the Suns, even if the Suns got lucky enough to make it to the Western Conference Finals. So it's a pick 'em. The Thunder, the Clippers, maybe even the Warriors, it's a safe bet that they're not going to make it past the second round. How do they preserve their roster? One, Eric Gordon, Josh Okogie, those are vet minimums. Bol, vet minimums. They're going to want to get paid more than they are. Maybe they're willing to settle and come back. The biggest problem is Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is coming off a career year shooting damn near 50% from the three-point line. Criminally underrated role player, bad guy villain, whatever. What's he going to want? He's going to want $20 million a year. Jason, how do you know that? Look at Dylan Brooks. Career per 36 this past season, 1 and what? Grayson Allen is there. There's going to be a new environment in the off season where Teams are doing those Bruce Brown type of contracts because they don't want to allocate long-term money. So he might get an obnoxious offer that is front-loaded that really puts the screws to Phoenix. So if Grayson Allen gets an obnoxious contract, that's 5 players on the roster. Okay. Looking at my little chart here, if you look at this 24-25 projected cap, they are at just under $170 million between 4 players: KD, Nurkic, Book, and Bradley Beal. Like, at $170 million, if the second apron is projected to be around 184, 185, maybe as high as 190, there's no feasible way. There's placeholders for vet minimum contracts between roster spot number 5 and number 15. Not even counting Nasir Little and his $6 million bucks. Like, this is crazy. Well, how do let's fast forward. All they have is vet minimums and undrafted leftover players at their discretion. So, preserving what they have, maybe they're lucky and they get to keep Okogie and Bol and Eric Gordon, right? They got no mid-level exception. They can't add Nurkic and Nasir Little and go get somebody, because that's breaking one of the second apron rules. They can't take back $1 more than whatever Nurkic and Nasir Little are making in that outgoing trade. And no buyouts. I'll let you guys read the rest of the rules. They may have some action at that 2031 because the year don't turn over fiscally until like July, and the draft is June. So I think that there's a little window for them to add Nurkic in that 2031 pick and go get something. But are they going to be better than the Thunder's organic growth? Better than the Grizzlies coming back? And who knows what happens with the Spurs? This is bananas. Like, this is what a destitute franchise looks like. If you're going to tell me you can't trade Booker or KD, like, this is problems, right? Oh, yeah. We can't let this slide. This is a new article that came out as of this morning. Ramona Shelburne, ESPN. Matt Ishbia. Let me quote this guy. Man, I'm trying to get hired in the league, so I can't be coming as hard as I want to come. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Just understand, Matt Ishbia. Like, if I can come get hired to fix the Suns one day, just I got to do what I got to do. Hard truths around here. Anyway, he says, and I quote, "I understand all the rules that come with the second apron. I understand exactly what the CBA tried to do. I read it inside and out, and we made a calculated decision that we think the team with the best players is going to win. I'd rather have Brad Beal, KD, and Booker than just having 2 of those guys. I think I'd rather have all 3 100 times out of 100, and I don't think there's any other GM or owner that wouldn't say the exact same thing." Okay. There's this concept called opportunity cost, and what it costed you to procure Beal and KD, like, count. So when you say I'd rather have 2, then that's $45-50 million that I would get to reallocate somewhere else, and the draft equity that I had to send out to procure this guy. So rather have 2 than 3, and every other GM and owner would have said the exact same. That is not the most analytical way to look at that, bro. And I don't think that that's how you got as successful as you were. So I'm going to leave that alone. KD, swinging for the fences. What? My man's KD. What are you supposed to do as an owner? It's all about swinging for the fences every year. What are you supposed to do? Sit back and hope you get a draft pick that turns out to be Wemby? No, but swinging for the fences every year, that's like me throwing the house at every hottie that comes my way. Like you spend all your money, you spend all your energy, your time at every attractive girl that you see, then what happens when you get 5, 10 females down the line and you got no bread in your pocket? You're emotionally spent. You got nothing. You have to be selective about what you spend your resources on. Like swinging for the fences every year, it's one thing when it was the Golden State Warriors and it was, the deepest pockets in the room wins the situation. It's a soft cap, and the only thing I got to deal with if I'm Joe Lacob and the Warriors is to write a bigger check so I can keep the train going. Like, that's not how this is going to work going forward. I'm gonna leave this alone. I'd still love to work for the Suns and come be a part of the solution. So I'm just gonna shut the hell up on this one right now. We can move on to the bad. Actually, I lied. Let me move on. Let me put this last little nugget out here in regards to the Suns. What would Hot Take J do? Hot Take J would look at the OKC Thunder and say, you guys have $40 million of extra space going into the offseason. What if we gave you KD's $50 million contract and you gave us back Giddey and Jang and 3, 5, maybe 7 fake first round picks that'll never get into the top 10, but we're devoid of any kind of draft equity over here in Phoenix. So if you want to give us 5 or 7 cracks at the end of the first round, toss in Giddey, toss in Jang, we could have a deal happen here. That's how I would look at it. If I was Phoenix, what would I be doing after a second round exit and KD going into age 36 season? That's what I would do. You want to get really freaky? You got to put Booker on the table. You want to speed this rebuild. And then after you entertain Booker, you call up the Nets and say, give me every damn pick you got from us back. And they turn you down, and you turn around and look and see what else Booker might get somewhere else. I guarantee you, after KD and Booker are gone, you can go back over to Brad Beal and have a good, wholesome conversation about his no trade clause. That's what I would do. All right. The Boston Celtics. They're the bad in my little correlation with my movie. But really right now, they're the good. They're killing the league right now. Now, when I say they're killing the league, there's 2 ways to take that. I mean, 48-14 plus 11-point differential. They're smoking the worst teams out there and all the mid teams. So when they lose like they did last night to the Nuggets, that was a very competitive game, had playoff energy, and everybody was looking for telltale signs to help, pick favorites and evaluate who's the best team in the league. And I think you saw to a T last night with Jokic playing next man speed, doing just enough to put the Celtics down, to let them know that he knows that they know, and that's just what I saw. So when I look at the Boston Celtics, how does their season end? Their season is going to end, in my opinion, one of 3 ways. It's going to end prematurely with a Porzingis injury, because he's injury prone, very injury prone. It's going to end because Giannis puts on his Superman cape and just goes ham on them in the Eastern Conference Finals. Or if they are fortunate enough to get past Porzingis' injury and Giannis, then Jokic will be there, healthy, durable, and ready to go. And if he has Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray flanking him, their season will end in the finals. That's just where it's going to end. And you don't really got to look any further than last night to see how it's going to happen. I think that Boston is way too reliant on threes, and they are deeper and they have more of a quality starting lineup than probably anybody in the league, but they got problems. And when they lose, because Vegas says they're plus 210 before last night's game, that's a 30% chance versus the field to win the championship. And when you're a competitor, they're not thinking like that. They expect to win the championship. They say 30% odds. Yeah, right. I'm looking at it like if they don't win, let's pull up these cap sheets over here, boy. Drew Holiday. He's going to be 34 this offseason, asking for $50 million a year. Asking for $50 million? The cap is 141 next year. He's asking for 50. You're already paying Jaylen Brown 50 next year. You're already giving Porzingis 30 next year. You're already giving Derek White 20 in the last year of his deal. He's going to want 30 after that. Did we forget anybody? Oh, yeah. Jason Tatum's going to want an extension for the following year at 60 a year, right? You do the math on this. I did some of the projections. Like, just this is rough estimates commensurate with market value. That puts them at 210 next year, 226 the year after that. For 5 players with Peyton Pritchard, oh my God, this is ugly. So when they lose, who is going to be the first up on the chopping block? Like, how do you cut fat? How do you get better? Because Denver ain't going to go anywhere. And then you got to assume there might be some new kids on the block. Even if it's not Denver, it might be the Thunder is the most prominent looking young and up and coming team. But there's going to be more. There's turnover every year. Anyway, getting back to this, no mid-level, no adding 2 players, your Horford and Peyton Pritchard and going to go get somebody else, no taking back anything more than what's going out. Again, Al Horford at $9.5 million. What are you going to trade for with him? What would Hot Take do? I would anything short of winning the championship. Anything. Jaylen Brown's got to go. Period. Anything. Got to go. I noticed that these GMs, people, when they get into these trade talks, it's inevitably a fear of getting worse and not being able to invest in a distressed asset or a future prospect and hope that you win out. And the kind of trade that I'm talking about is Donovan Mitchell going to the Cavs. You had to have a gun to their head. Donovan Mitchell said, "Get me the hell out of Utah." Utah didn't want to make that deal, and Utah was never going to win. They were never going to win with that roster. But then you trade. They force you to do it. Donovan Mitchell says, "Get me the hell out of here or else." And they capitulate, they fold, and they have they get a shrewd deal, and they get Lauri Markkanen back among a whole slew of draft picks. And I would argue that they won that trade. They had to bring in somebody like Danny Ainge, who does not move in fear, and go out there and make a trade that looks like you might be losing because you don't get a player of Donovan Mitchell's caliber back. But lo and behold, Lauri Markkanen is a very good player that may end up being as good as Donovan Mitchell one day if he's not already ascended there. And there's a preconceived notion that if you trade a star, you're guaranteed to get worse. And I just don't subscribe to any of that. And I would be looking for a very aggressive type of trade that I could lose on, but you're trading for future value. You're trading for distressed assets. Like there's risk. It's just a part of life, and it's definitely a part of this business. And then I would find a way to kick the can down the road with Drew Holiday. Like, if Drew Holiday wants to go and he's going to leverage a team like the Detroit Pistons, I'm saying fine. What can I pluck some pieces off of that roster to make that trade smooth and easy, and we can replenish with some depth? some Isaiah Stewart or something like that. That's an easy maneuver. I mean, that's what I would do. But if you that situation it's gonna get ugly if they don't win. All right, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's wrap this one up here. They are definitely the good. And when I say the good, I mean their future's bright. They're in a financially resource stable position here, that where their flexibility and their organic growth and all of it is 1,000. They are just in a very charity position that they've been cultivating for a while. Sam Presti could have probably hit the go button a couple of years ago and still been real good, but they're in a cherry spot. And if you look at them financially and just their age, like it's just ripe premium talent. So I'll start out the same way here, and I want to address where their season ends. Their season is going to end probably in the second round, or maybe in the second round of the playoffs, or maybe even the Western Conference Finals. Unless you tell me Jokic gets hurt, Jokic is going to get Chet in foul trouble. SGA is going to experience some adversity, not getting the calls that he's accustomed to. He's not as bad as James Harden was in his Houston Rocket days, but a lot of his game is predicated on drawing fouls, and that is going to be there's going to be an impact. And I how he handles that and how effective he is as a result of that change of pace and that playoff style of basketball changing is a big question for me. Overall, I think the team is going to get bullied by, namely, the Nuggets. The rest of the teams, I might even consider them favorites, but again, they're so young. Their range of outcomes is pretty wide, but their talent is top tier. So, but I just, even if they made it to the finals against Boston, they both play that small ball very well. Chet and Porzingis are very similar, even though Chet's a little bit more versatile with the way I'm mostly the size and their body type, and then the four smalls around it is what I think is very comparable. When they lose, what will be the next step? If they lose how I said that they were going to lose, then they could go one of 50 different ways to get better. They could make that move for KD that I was referencing in my little Phoenix Suns section, but it doesn't have to stop there. Markkanen is going to be in line for a renegotiation, but if they want to pay 3x for Lauri Markkanen, Danny Ainge is the kind of guy to listen. So guys that I like, if they lose and it's because of youth and getting bullied, I like Beef Stew to come in here and give them some edge. I like Maxi Kleba to come in there and give them some spacing behind Chet, or maybe even play with Chet. Nick Claxton is another guy who come off the bench who's going to be an option for them. And those are options that they could fit into that $40 million that they're projected to have based off of the numbers that I got. And Cap's going to be at 141. And once Gordon Hayward comes off, exercising all of their rookies, they're going to have about $40 million. And to me, job number one is kind of kicking the can down the road and exploring what you can get for Giddey. He's already getting squeezed out with J-Dub. Yeah, J-Dub on the ball, and Chet having his growing offensive responsibilities. I remember when I bombed that damn presentation in SBC, the merit of my presentation was solid when I talked about what the OKC Thunder should do, and we're talking about take the ball out of Giddey's hands, put it in J-Dub's hands. They're ready to win right now or take a good solid step forward. And I want to hedge my bet I effectively traded, or we did. We traded Giddey, and in principle, we got back Miles Turner. And had they made that trade, it would have looked good. But my point is, they're gonna need a big to hedge and complement Chet at the same time, and then avoid the whole restricted free agency for Giddey. You don't want to get into paying him. I'm not even sure if he got $20 million a year and it looks like a steal because he could outgrow that. Like, I'm not even sure it's worth it for OKC to try to retain that. They can go get premier top tier wing complementary talent. Even if they're just 3-and-Ds, go get that top tier talent to complement it. I don't understand why they didn't go get a player like Kelly Olynyk. Again, the idea is to recycle Giddey into either premium future draft equity or top tier complementary talent to Chet, J-Dub, and SGA. I'm going to keep that one simple and wrap it up. But my last point on the Thunder is, as they pay Chet, Shea, and J-Dub the max, all of these picks, when you look at all these second round picks, all these fake first round picks that are not going to be lottery picks, use them in the same fashion that Denver has used some of their late round picks the last year or two. They're replenishing role players. You have to have the gumption to walk away from a player like Bruce Brown. You have to. And you have to have confidence that you can replace him. Again, moving out of fear and trying to have these vets that you trust. Like, I've seen that all up and down Golden State when they're like, okay, you can trust Gary Payton, you can trust Looney all you want, but Looney ain't going to learn how to jump higher. He's not going to start banging threes at this stage of his career. Like, let Kuminga, let Trace Jackson Davis, let them make mistakes and play, and let them show you that they might be able to have some swag in the playoffs. What kind of resume are you looking for them to show you in the regular season that they can learn through their mistakes? I'm gonna get off my soapbox here. Thunder, use these damn seconds, use these fake firsts, be very aggressive with replenishing your depth and your role players, and have the stones to play them over these recycled, retired vets. Like, that's just not the solution. So that's going to wrap it up for our video. I really appreciate y'all chiming in here to the Clutch Talk channel and hearing what I have to say. I'm going to put out a few more videos on some of these teams going into the off season. I would love to hear from you on Twitter and just have that banter going back and forth. But I really appreciate your guys' time.